Hello, people. It's time. Yeah, we're going live on an off night because a brother of ours asked us for some help. And we love helping our community. That's what we're here to do. And granted, most of the shit we broadcast is just crazy as fuck. But tonight, we're going to help us one of our folks from the Storyteller's Vault. We're going to talk about Ian Hogan, and we're going to talk about the Black Spiral Dancers. Of all the Guru, I know they're worm tainted as fuck. Okay? Yeah, that's Black Spiral Dancers. What do you want to do? Right? So, we're going to talk about them tonight. We're going to talk about the Guru politics between them and all the rest of the Guru. I tried to get our standard Guru guy, but he is driving 400 miles tonight to go spend the time, the weekend, I guess, with his parents. So we're going to talk just amongst, us. So we're going to, hold on, let me pull it up. We got Thomas. Say hi.
Hello, I will be your representative PR for Pentex.
Yeah, okay, there's that. Yeah, there's that. And then we have Ian, who's the requestee for the special show. And that brother's come to our beck and call on more than one occasion. So I really do appreciate his time. He's the one who's writing the book on the Black Spiral Dancers for the Storyteller Vault. Say
That's right.
hi, Ian.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? And for what it's worth, I've actually been recruited by Pentex to get the book out. So I'm actually really just doing the, I'm the lead developer, but I won't be doing most of the writing. I'm going to organize it to make sure that it happens, because I feel like the Black Spiral Dancers is such a glaring hole in the IP that everybody has sort of filled in what they think should happen with them, from bat totems to, whether or not they're playable and whether or not they're insane, what organizations they've infiltrated, stuff like that. So I feel like mainly what I'm doing is I'm making sure that the community gets what they want. And so it's not just Ian's vision of the Black Spiral Dancers or so-and-so's vision of the Black Spiral Dancers. I actually recruited like 6 top-level guys and gal to do this book. And so it'll be like 5 writers and me as a lead dev. I'll probably do about 20%, maybe 10% of the writing. But what I'm doing right now is just making sure that I understand the Black Spiral Dancers in the way that everyone else does. That makes sense.
Yeah, but here's the thing. BSD, and I get that. How many folks you got working on this?
It's 6 people right now.
6 people. So it's really difficult sometimes to get cohesiveness of a tribe or a clan, or and you know this better than most. You got to get your shit together. You got to get their shit together. And you seem to be the lead dev on this, so that's great. I will buy that book, no doubt. Even though I'm not a big werewolf guy, but I'll buy that book. No doubt. Because as far, I hate to use this as a comparison, but the Tremere tend to get a little bit of a bad rep, and the Black Spiral Dancers do the same. And I'm thinking that those guys need some good representation.
Or not. I mean, the number one thing about a Black Spiral, and I'm sorry, did we skip anyone's introduction here?
No, we're
Sorry.
good, man. I will get to that in a minute.
Okay. Well, for what it's worth, I think the Black Spiral Dancers are, like you said, there's a problem with cohesiveness. I think that's really why I'm here, is that I want to at least hear everyone's opinion, because I think really the number one thing, in my opinion at least, people argue about with the Black Spiral Dancers is just whether or not they're playable. And that's a big question, right? So obviously, I think I'm making a tribe book for them. I think they are playable. I think the subtext of them not getting their own tribe book is that, and where the White Howlers did, is that they are not playable. And the reason for that, I believe, is that the original IP creators like Bill Bridges in general, saw them as incurably insane in a way that just really not Malkavian, like you can play with, you have a derangement and you stick to your derangement, but like really, really out there. And in that way, like when you think about them as catatonically insane, monster killer, what do they call the hobo killers or whatever? Murder hobos. There's one.
Murder
So if you
hobos,
think
yeah.
catatonically insane murder hobos that turn into giant werewolf creature things with maybe some bat features. There's no, like, how would these two of these even get together and fuck each other and make a little bat fucker? Make
right?
bat. So I don't really, it doesn't make sense to me in the way that, sorry, Bill, love you, buddy, but the way that the Black Spiral Dancers were written, in my opinion, doesn't make any fucking sense.
I'm familiar. No, seriously, dude,
Exactly.
I am familiar with how the Black Spirals were originally written, and it was like, okay, they're just too crazy to play.
Yeah,
So-
the way that they're, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So here we go. All right, Brother Kide, you got a question? You got one? Are you ready?
Yeah, I do have one question, but
Let's do
that's
this.
probably
No,
not a
let's do
question.
this.
It's probably a stupid question.
It ain't stupid.
Are we going to have a printed version of the book?
I can not actually answer that on any official capacity because I'm not officially associated with the Storytellers Vault. But this question comes up so much in the Storytellers Vault forum on Facebook that I can answer. I can tell you exactly what they would say if you asked Matt.
Well, yeah, the problem with the STV
Just
is,
let me tell you, the problem is that the POD is not available now, but it should be available one day. We just don't know when one day is. We've been told 2020, but the end of 2020 is coming soon. We've been told 2019. So I don't think it's going to happen in 2019, but maybe in 2020. That's what we're all.
But the situation I've noticed with the STV is that, yeah, we're going to get a PDF regardless. We're always going to get a PDF. But an actual printed book, not so much, dude. Would rather, as Eric has pointed out, it's really hard to flip through a book if you don't have a fucking book.
Yeah,
exactly. That's why I asked this dumb question.
No, not a dumb question.
It's not a dumb question.
I'll let you know if it's a dumb question. But no, the print on demand is supposed to come, and we don't know when it's supposed to come. It may never come, but we've been kind of told, kind of on the sly, that print on demand will come to the Storytellers Vault in 2020. So we're all really hoping for that. The one thing to remember though is that a lot of content creators haven't been preparing for that. So like you need to have a spine, for example. You can't just like take any PDF and print it out. It doesn't really work that way. So right. I think even if we do get print on demand and we got it, tomorrow, there would not be a lot of shit that's available. So that's kind of a problem.
But most of the stuff, and there's been a lot of stuff on the PDF, on the STV, I've looked at, and I'm like, I want a physical copy of that. I do.
You could always do the cheaters route with a printer and a creative use of paper clips. That's how I've made my own books.
For it.
Okay, yeah.
Of course, you pay for it.
As long as you're not selling it, you can take that high quality PDF to Staples or if I'm in LA, we can get them really cheap, and it's like 8-10 cents a page.
Yeah, I'm not going to sell the physical copy, but I buy it myself and then print it out for home use. That way you can flip through it.
Correct. So like 100-page book is actually only 50 sheets. So
but Ian's been on one of the shows where Eric was like, I can't do this if I don't have something to flip through. And it was like, holy shit, I flip, but what, I get that. And I want that. I do. But I also want hard copy. Yeah, I mean, hardbound. But we can't always expect that's going to be the case.
No, but we're going to get it. I mean, okay, I'm not the official mouthpiece. For all I know, the Storyteller's Vault will be shut down tomorrow. But I'm telling you, from what I've talked to people about, like they're working on it. It's just a matter of like they need, it costs money. And the Storyteller's Vault is part of a business whose business model is to make a profit. So they have to sort of make enough profit, to make it worth their while. I don't know. It's kind of a thing.
But yeah, here's the thing. Even with, and I'm looking at people publishing shit on like a bi-weekly basis.
Yeah, like Josh.
Seriously, dude. And how do you print all of this?
Really amazing.
Yeah. How do you print all of this if people are turning shit out that fast?
Well, with folks like professionals who are putting out things every few weeks, you would have to wait for them to release a compendium. And like the one that you're talking about, I think, is where they go through the Beckett's Jihad Diary and chapter by chapter and give stats for all the characters that are in it. So it's really cool. I think they concluded it already. I'm pretty sure it was like, I don't know, 13 or 20 or so. A lot of issues. And it would make sense that if that became a POD, they would release it as one volume, because they're a small company.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially since Beckett, ever since the release of V20, Beckett has just blown the fuck up.
Yeah, if we don't get a Beckett movie,
Yeah, no shit, dude.
I'll shave my head.
Dude,
no shit, dude.
We're gonna get one.
So waiting for that. And
perfect.
When they tried, and they did try, with Vampire the Embraced,
Kindred,
Kindred the Embraced. It was a good idea, but I want Beckett. I fucking want Beckett, dude.
Yeah, telling you, I think you'll get him, and I think he'll be pretty much undead Indiana Jones, and it'll be pretty cool.
That's his draw, dude.
Come and then with random guest stars like Lucida comes in for an episode.
Who is the
I'm
guy?
sure it'll be a shit show, but yeah.
Who is
I really
the guy
hope
who knows more about Kindred Society than that motherfucker? Seriously.
Probably some Kiasid. So
not even Kane.
Well,
I wouldn't go that far.
Kane's in a hole.
You fucking lose. That's
yeah. Let me try and steer the boat a little bit.
Thank you.
No worries. So the Black Spiral Dancer question that came up, like when I was hashing it up with one of my writers, and he wanted to do some Bane spirit stuff, and it was just like obvious that there are more to the Black Spiral Dancer the Black Spiral Dancers politically, like, than the normal Geru society. Like, we have totems, right? And totems are spirits that we associate with and that grant us gifts, and that's pretty straightforward. And we have like lists of them in the tribe book. Like, I can't really think of one specifically, but like the Bastet, who's the were cats or whatever, would certainly have like lion or whatever. And so we know from the Book of Worm, at least the second edition, which I have in front of me, great book, I suggest buy it, is basic. But by the way, the Book of Worm is basically like the Black Spiral Dancers tribe book. That's but it
pretty much, yeah.
But
dude, I'm looking at it right now.
What's that?
I'm actually reading through the Book of the Worm second edition right now.
Isn't it great? It's a great one. It's really, if there ever was a Black Spiral Dancer tribe book, that's basically it. But what I'm saying is, in there, they do actually talk about the totems that that the Black Spiral Dancers associate with, and one that we all know is the whippoorwill, which is just a silly, by the way, the strangest fucking thing ever. Whippoorwill is a silly little bird that makes a silly fucking sound. And for some strange reason, the original writers, Bill and everybody,
around here, by the way,
thought that sound was somehow intimidating, or I don't know what the fuck. But somehow, at any rate, the number one totem, if someone could explain that to me, by the way, that would be great. Why they chose the whippoorwill. I mean, obviously it was because of their call, but what about the whippoorwill call, like, makes you, I don't know. There's supposed to be the sound that the black spiral dancers make when they're like attacking you or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it's
so weird. Like, why would they make that sound?
The BSD, and I'm gonna go this direction with it, is that as far as as a comparison for vampire would be the Samiti, because they're like constantly rotting.
Oh, the Samdi.
I don't know about that. I'm gonna let me just finish the thought. So, I'm also writing the Samedi clan book, by the way.
Oh, yeah, see?
It is. And that's why I was like, oh my god, okay, I'm gonna like segment big time. So we'll have another episode at some other time.
Yeah,
about
we can do that.
Samedi.
Yo,
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
Listen. Did you notice?
Is almost already done,
seriously, dude. Did you notice I pulled a show together in 24 hours notice for you?
You also you do other badass things too.
I know, right? And I love bullshitting about my favorite game. No, dude, I love my favorite game.
Well, here, let me put this all together for people who are wondering what in the fuck I'm doing bringing up totems. So what I'm saying is that the Geru tribes all have totems, including the Black Spiral Dancers, and we'll get to how interesting that is. For Black Spiral Dancers, by the way, aren't really even a tribe. You know, they kind of are, but they kind of aren't. They're obviously the remnants of the White Howlers, but there's also all kinds of misfits that just become Black Spiral Dancers by walking through.
Yeah, but they're riding blacks.
So it's a very strange group of people. It's any rate so in the Book of Worm, they have the totems. The Whippoorwill's in there. Green Dragon is in there. Some really cool stuff is in there. So it's clear that they have, let's just say, totems. Then my homie, one of my writers, Sam, great guy from England, comes to me and he says, I want to do a section on the Urge Worm.
Why ain't he on the show?
Not his bag. I don't know. But the point is, he asked me to do a section, if we could do a section on the Urge Worm and the associations that they have with the Black Spiral Dancers. And I stopped and I thought, and I was like, did I just miss something and do an Urge Worm? Is there like what? You know, and like, I know what they are, you know, it's like fear and greed and all these sorts of negative emotions that are like metastasized into creatures like the thing from Fern Gully, right? You know, that's like an Urge Worm. So I knew what they were, but I was like, I didn't know that they did associate with them. But then when you really think about it, like just who would, if there is a worm spirit out there called an Urge Worm, which there is, and they are very powerful, which they are, and there are intelligent worm-infested creatures that are basically as smart and as organized as humans, which are, you know, the Black Spiral Dancers and the Fomori, wouldn't they relate to them somehow? Maybe, yeah. I was like, okay, I guess there would be some interaction between the Urge Worm and the Black Spiral Dancers, and I don't know what it would be. It's not really written down anywhere. So little questions like that came up. I'm like, does anyone know if there's anything written about how the Urge Worm relates with the Black Spiral Dancers? I mean, guys?
By the way, New Wave, you know New Wave. Her question was, are the Black Spiral Dancers weirder than weretrout?
Depends on your definition.
You know, that's my favorite werebeast.
Weretrout, definitely Black Spirals.
So technically, it looks like to some extent the Black Spirals have been known to call upon certain aspects of the Urge Worm, depending on what they're doing. So one of them is they use Phobok, the Urge of Fear. When the Black Spiral Dancers will approach them, or when they wish to approach Phobok. Yeah, basically the Black Spiral Dancers, one of their biggest things is inciting fear. And then, of course, there's the urge of paranoia.
It's going to be hard to
so it actually looks like every single one of them. I'm looking at the wiki right now for anyone who's following along.
Oh, okay. I won't pull that up. Go ahead, girl. Or dude, sorry.
And something like
No, I
how
was
they
looking at.
relate. So maybe this has been written down somewhere. Did I just miss it? What
I'm
book is that
gonna
in?
check real quick where it. Okay, so it says V20 Book of the Worm is one of the
Okay, there you go. That's why.
possible
That's why. I need.
places, and Phobok again. Yep, V20 Book of the Worm. That's where you're gonna want to look for
Yep.
this info and how.
That's why it confused me. I don't have that book. Okay,
There,
cool. Well, there you go, guys.
but it
But
does
no,
then
this is
say
why you
All right,
wanted
it's
the
been a great
show,
show.
dude.
That's all I needed. Bye
No,
bye.
no, hang on,
no, because there was something I wanted
no,
to.
hang
I-
on, guys. This is why Ian wanted the show. He wanted some information that he didn't already have.
Correct.
Right.
And this is what we're trying to accomplish here. And I get comedy aside, but he needs this for STV, and we're gonna try and give him as best of the information we can, even with the funny shit aside. Yes, because yes, Were Trout are funny. I don't give a shit who you are. Were Trout are funny, and I
If you don't
guarantee
think
you,
Weird Trout are funny, dial.
with a Malkavian smacking somebody with a Were Trout is even funnier.
Were Trout.
Yeah, Malkavian with potent smacking someone with a were-trout sounds great.
And then you like try to grab the fish out of his hand, and he just lets you, and then it turns
Yeah,
into a weird.
exactly.
Like, oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you.
So I do actually want to defend the whippoorwill for a moment.
Thank you,
You
please.
brought up the question of why this weird symbol
Totally.
when all the others have these stranger animals. Well, it's because the whippoorwill is known specifically to be heard but never seen. It's a bird that hides in the trees on
it
horizontal
only
branches.
starts calling during sunset.
So
It
so
really
it's some
does.
old
It's
school.
hard to come
Okay.
by.
Okay.
Yeah,
It has
they-
nothing to do with the sound. It's just what people. It's like the myth of the sound. Okay. All
It's
right.
the myth of the
The
sound. And
implication is fear.
yeah, it's this creepy because the song doesn't vary. It's the same call over and over and over and over again as the sun sets or the sun rises, and they're known to fly around the edges of forests, and then they swoop down and they just open their giant mouths and swallow insects whole and fly
Okay.
away.
So that's really what they're really referencing. They're not referencing the sound as being scary. It's just like, wouldn't it be crazy if there was like some half bat thing that swooped down and swallowed things whole, and it would make this? Yeah. Okay. I totally see that now. Yeah,
It's
and it's
very
just
much
Hold up.
weird. Yeah.
Hold up.
And they're just saying, oh, as a totem, why not? But let's all just coalesce for a second. So what's up with the whippoorwill? Who hurt you, whippoorwill?
Yeah, right?
Jeez.
Okay, heads up. New Wave says, and I quote, my guru character would like a place to order a were trout with a side of whippoorwill, please.
But we would be glad to serve
gotta
you
quit
one of our
those jokes,
many fine
buddy.
Pentex establishments. Please
Right.
sit right here.
Let's talk about that for a minute. The number two thing, like the number one thing, obviously, was how did I get here? How did I get here? I was asked about the urge worm and how they relate, and there you go. So I need to get the W20 version of the Book of Worm so I can catch up. So that's really like the bottom line. But the real elephant in the room with Black Spiral Dancers, as I said earlier, is whether or not they're catatonically insane murder hobos. And I just don't think they are at all. At all. I think that the Fomori are just really like Black Spiral Dancer kinfolk for all intents and purposes. And they're not. Those two things are different.
Yeah.
But to think that the Black Spiral Dancers come out of some sort of kinfolk line that all, like 1 out of every 10 becomes a Geru and 9 out of 10 is just a kinfolk, and that all of the Geru that come out of them are catatonically insane murder hobos, dude, people would just be drowning them babies. They would just be like, I do not want to raise this murder hobo child. It's going to kill me when it's 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you remember that movie with Macaulay Culkin, Good Child?
Oh yeah, it's like why did anyone drown the little
Yeah.
one boy?
Like a little Black Spiral Dancer child, like killing his parents and killing the uncle and shit. Like, yeah, that's fucking. I would drown that motherfucker. So I don't really see it. Just doesn't make sense. It all is very comic book and very video game sort of feeling, and I don't dig it. I like realism, you know. So I'm always trying to explain, like, okay, so what's the deal? And I think then that remember that the Black Spiral Dancers are supposed to have a top position at Pentex, and the character that they name, who I should have in front of me, but he's like in one of these books. I'm pretty sure he's in Freak Legion, he's in one of he's in the fucking Pentex book. Of course.
Oh,
But anyway,
Mike Dragon's
it would
Wrath.
be.
is that Mike Dragon's Wrath? Is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so
That's
he's supposed to be crazy, and everyone hates him. He's like on the board of directors, and they just ignore him, and he's like insane. And I think that's part of the whole mythos of the BSD being an unplayable character. So I want to change that. I don't think that the BSD should be unplayable, and I don't think
No, they shouldn't be.
what's his name, Michael Dragon's butthole.
Mike Dragon's Wrath. I will.
Mike Dragon's Wrath shouldn't be catatonically insane. He shouldn't be even like, maybe he should be quirky, like maybe Howard Hughes
No,
even
but
quirky.
there's always a downside to the upside.
No, there has to
Well,
be. There has to be. But it can't be so bad that no one would take the deal.
Exactly.
So
The way that I see it, if the way that you compared it to the Malkavian, it's having them being just mindless murder hobos is the same way of having nothing but fish milk out there.
Agreed.
The way that they're,
Right?
yeah, and the way that they're portrayed in the Book of the Worm, I really like it. It made me think of like kind of like the Sabbat, if that makes sense, where they have their beliefs, their set of beliefs, but they're not just bloodthirsty beasts that will just kill and maim without any second thought. They behave like a tribe. They behave like packs. Yes, they do behave like beasts because they are werewolves.
Yeah,
But they are not just
Garu.
exactly. But they are driven by the same thing that the non-corrupted Garu. They just do everything for Gaia. These motherfuckers are doing everything for the worm, and they are just usually portrayed as crazy beasts because the Garu. The way that I like to
They're
think of
that
it is that
further
this is a
worm
story.
tainted. That's
Yeah,
the
this
thing.
is the story being written by it's being told by the Garu. So they are being portrayed as these things because they are the enemy. Don't think anything good about them because they are beasts. They want everything destroyed. They want to kill everything like the worm wants that. But there's actually a, how do you say it, a method to their madness.
Yep.
So I'd like to bring up, it sounds an awful lot like what the Garu Nation does to the Black Spiral Dancers is what the Cam and the Anarchs do to the Sabbat.
True.
They claim,
No,
they're
true
nothing
that,
but
yo.
monster baby eaters. They
Yeah,
have no
true
sense.
that, yo.
They're all monsters. In reality, no, they're complex and
Propaganda.
political and dangerous.
Which
And you're
is
underestimating them.
I get
Yeah.
so bent out of shape when people say Premiere or this, and that's all they are.
Then true
And I'm
propaganda.
like, no.
Been true propaganda. Mix in with some Drupa prejudice.
Asshole prejudice. Yeah.
But so I feel like White Wolf is trying to move in a different direction with the Black Spiral Dancers, and I think your book
I don't.
is
I think oh god, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Mike Dragonwrath actually has some decent notes in the Pentex Employee Indoctrination Handbook, 2017 edition. Please get it; it's good.
Yeah.
He leaves some very insightful notes on the things inside. Now, again, maybe you're right. The organization as a whole may not be moving in a better direction with Black Spirals, but some people are trying to write them as more three-dimensional,
Yeah.
and I
That's
agree
right.
with you.
No,
And I agree with
seriously,
you.
dude. And I'm gonna be honest, dude. I've been doing this show for like 3 years now, and my understanding of the Guru has, it's expounded exponentially because our first guest on the show were two Brazilian werewolves, and we learned that just with that was that werewolves are much more than fucking dog-shaped murder monsters.
No, they are, and their enemies are as well. It's the game of assumptions and generalizations. But the one thing all the Garu do have in common, and it's in all their stories, is what drives a pack and what drives a tribe is pride.
Yeah,
Pride
no,
is what
I
drives
got
all
that.
wolves.
I got that after the first show.
Right.
I was like, okay, but what makes you guys better than this?
Depends on the tribe you ask. Now, I think if
No,
you ask
and
the Black
no,
Spiral
these guys.
dancers,
No, these guys are trying to do a LARP in Brazil. With the whole, werewolf ambiance. I told him, I said, start a LARP group. And he was like, well, I don't think I can get into play a LARP group. I said, yes, you fucking can. Okay, I don't want to hear this bullshit that you can't do a werewolf group where you live, especially since vampire is not coming across to y'all. So let's do werewolf. And then, Mateus and Pedro were like, okay, well, let's do that. And now it turns out in Brazil, we have already had two new. And this isn't actually Mateus and Pedro's groups. It's just in general. They're, okay, let's do werewolf. But only because Pedro and Mateus were like, y'all can do werewolf group. This is how this works. And then now we have all this wonderfulness. You know me. I am more than happy to introduce what we love. What we love. Whether it be werewolf, whether it be vampire, whether it be changeling, whether it be wraith, it doesn't matter as long as you are trying to put forward the positive aspects of what we love.
Exactly.
I agree. To round back to my point more generally, I think an important thing to talk about with the Black Spiral Dancers is, again, as a tribe, what do they take pride in? Because every tribe is proud of something. Black Spiral Dancers, I think, are proud that they're on the winning side. That they've mastered their taint.
Oh, I heard it. No, I heard that.
Mine. I get the comment.
No,
So
comment,
I
dude.
totally agree. Minus one caveat. I think that they all are convinced that they. By the way, I was trying to be funny when I said me. If somebody really wants
No,
to.
dude, go,
Right.
dude, go.
Just saying. So I do believe you 100% that their biggest source of pride as a group is that they believe they're winning, and I think that they've thought that they're winning probably since the Industrial Revolution when they started polluting everything. But in general,
maelstrom. Sorry.
no, that's all good. Yeah. So there. I think that they. Oh, right. So, but I think that their biggest source of pride, like on a personal and just in general, like recently, their biggest source of pride might be that they're winning the war. But like historically, I think it's corruption. I think that they're really good at it, and they're really proud of it, and that they believe that it's like we have this way in America and certainly in most other countries that we think that if you got your money in an underhanded way, you're a piece of shit. It doesn't mean like, in America, there's a prosperity gospel. If you have a lot of money, and in lots of other countries, if you have a lot of money, it means you're kind of like a good person. And like, I don't believe that personally, but that's how some people have made it into power. And I think that prosperity gospel really falls apart in most cultures if you came about your wealth in a really underhanded way, like you stole it or something.
I.e.
Rockefeller.
I.e.
However,
Carnegie.
that's not true if you're an Albanian. Just kidding. I love you, Albanians. But there are I think people who don't who are proud of themselves even if they get their money in an underhanded way. They are just as proud of the money as if they worked hard for it. And I think that's the mentality. We all know people like that. And I think that's the mentality that exists in the Black Spiral Dancers. They're just so proud of their power, and they don't care how they got it. And it's like really the root of it is corruption, but the end result is the power struggle and that they're winning it. So.
I.e. Carnegie, i.e. Rockefeller, i.e. Vanderbilt, i.e. Come on, let's keep going.
Yeah, those are a great example. You know how Rockefeller did it is they picked up muskets and rifles off of the battlefield out of the cold, dead hands of fellow soldiers, and then they would sell those guns back to the army, for $8 a piece.
War is good for business.
Yeah,
War is very good for
Peace
business.
is good for business. We're talking about two separate rules of what is it? Bungless Ferengi. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
No.
I can't remember it now, but basically it's the rules of ultimate capitalism.
Yes.
Yeah, the rules of acquisition. That's what you're talking about.
There we go.
Rules of acquisition.
That's it. I was trying to think about that too.
Yeah. So that's an actually interesting point. I wouldn't say that the Fomori are that bad, or I mean that the Ferengi are that bad, but I see where you're going, that the Black Spiral Dancers probably have some sort of rules of acquisition kind of thing. But if I may give a quick reveal to what you're going to find in the book, one of the chapters that's actually going to be written by me is about this thing. I want to make a game mechanic for corruption so that how do you loop somebody into a cult? I mean, cults are probably the main engine of recruitment for Black Spiral Dancers right now. But even if it's a Geru cult, it's probably has the same sort of mentality with a figurehead, us and them mentality, behavior control, thought control, emotional control, all that kind of stuff. It's called the bite model, by the way. If you ever want to look it up, it's a real thing. And I think that making a game mechanic that models the bite model is actually hilarious because it works with werewolf, sort of imagery. But it's behavior control, intellect control, thought control, and emotional control. And that's, I want to make like a multi-stage, with 1 dots, 2 dots, 3 dots, 1 successes, 2 successes, whatever, and to show
more dots.
Yeah, 4 dots.
And more dots.
Yeah, and whatever. I think there's probably going to be. It's probably just going to be.
I had to go there, dude.
No worries. Sorry. I mean, it's probably manipulation and subterfuge and stuff like that.
But no, I think that's actually a fascinating idea, and in all honesty, would be a great. If it's not exactly a sort of churning factory for Black Spiral Dancers, it's definitely them watching and waiting for people who could be grabbed and moved on to other things, or are part of their mating rituals.
Oh shit! You dropped out.
There is actually some rules about creating a Black Spiral Dancer character, and I think it's intended for NPCs, but it actually starts you off with less dots for willpower, because for that reason, Black Spiral Dancers have low willpower. Or is it willpower or whatever it is? We don't have willpower. And being like an asshole right now.
No, you're good, man.
I don't think they had willpower back in the day. No, they did. They had willpower. Yeah, you could spend willpower for free success.
Hang on, we've had some new questions from the group.
Sure.
I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention. To the folks who are watching the show live. Scott Banks missed us last week when we were live, and he came in just as we were leaving. Basically, keep going talking, you guys. I'm gonna look for the chat.
No worries. So for what it's worth, this has really already been successful for me, because I figured out where I need to mine, and it seems like we all have a really similar idea, at least the little things that we've touched on, obviously including the urge worms is a good idea. Obviously, there seems to be more of a sort of mythological reason for the whippoorwill. The fact that we think BSDs are not catatonically insane murder hobos. I think honestly what it's done already is show me that probably everything I'm thinking is pretty standard for people that use BSDs in their game, because you kind of have to. Otherwise, what the fuck is a BSD anyway? It's like a tornado. And you just
right? Yeah, no, I feel you, dude.
Seriously,
dude, I feel you.
I mean, to an extent. I mean, if we're gonna go with what we've seen in World of Darkness, I'm sure there are some Black Spiral Dancers who are canonically insane, tornadoes of death, murder hobos, and
Okay,
they're
hold
used
up.
like shovel heads.
I got one here.
Double heads.
Sorry. Mike's Dragon Wrath is a totally heavy metal band name for fuck sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. But no, I'm sure that the Black Spiral Dancers use them as pack mates, similar to how the Sabbat uses shovel heads. You send them in first. If they live, cool. If they don't, oh well. Bill couldn't talk too good anyway, so what use was he?
Oh shit.
Yeah.
No, some bored loser says, well, of course they are dog shaped murder monsters. They're furries.
Yeah.
Oh
He
no,
was
that's
there.
fucking funny,
He
dude.
saw the chance. He took it.
That's some funny shit, dude. Oh yeah, they're furries.
I don't even want to go there.
Yeah, I'm already moving on to the next dick joke.
Well, one of my vampire
come on,
characters got
Ian.
spit roasted by
No,
a pair of Black
seriously,
Spiral
no, Ian.
Dancers, so
No,
I'm all for the dick
seriously,
joke.
Ian, you know that's funny.
It was. It was.
That's some funny shit. Okay, keep going, y'all.
So yeah, I think like the real thing that comes down to at this point is just like, do you guys have any questions or requests? Maybe any insults?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go there. Okay, guys, this man is writing the Black Spiral Dancer book for
Storyteller's Vault.
Storyteller. I was getting there, damn it. Give me a minute. Storage STV, and he would like all the input. He wants all of the input and no one get upset if he doesn't use it, but he wants all of the input. He wants help. He wants
No, I don't
you-
want help. Don't want help at all, and I actually don't really need any input. I think I've pretty much got it. But if anyone like has any ideas and they say, I just really think this is super obscure, and you guys, your 6 guys have probably all missed it. Yeah, I'm over at Nocturne RPG Publishing. I would love to hear from you and let me know. Of course, like Peter said, probably won't make it in there because I probably won't read it anyway. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
I'll
I
totally
know, right? But still, it's all about, come on, dude. It's about the actual community.
Yeah, it's all about
Was
it's all about you
trying
guys. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
why would I like write the book if people didn't want it? But the one thing that this goes back to my original point. I'm functioning as a lead developer on a book that I think a lot of people have different feelings about, and I want to make sure that it gets out in like a linear fashion and doesn't just become chapter 1 is Bob's ideas and chapter 2 is Ian's ideas and chapter 3 is David's ideas. Like, I didn't use any female names there because I'm a huge sexist, but like
Yeah, whatever, dude.
I just think that if we could all coalesce around sort of an idea of who they are, and for what it's worth, the real simple thing is they're just Fomori that turn into werewolves. They're Fomori are not all
Basically.
insane. You know what I mean? Fomori are not all insane. They're all around us, and they blend into society. They'd maybe hang out in weird
regardless-
places and
But
desperation.
regardless
target
of whether they're Fomori or not, they're still part of the zeitgeist.
Mm.
No, what do you mean by that specifically?
What I mean is that even if they're not, they're canon, regardless of their canon, whether they're canon. And the concept is that, okay, well, they're not silver fangs. They're not fucking whatever else. What I'm
White
saying is
Owlers.
it's still part of the canon. Black Spiral Dancers are canon. I don't give a shit how you carry about it. If you want to do less or more. But what I'm saying is, these guys are still canon. And
Yeah, I don't know that anyone ever thought that they weren't. All I was saying is earlier I was saying I'm not sure they're going in a good direction with them. I think that White Wolf would be happy if they weren't as crazy as they've already been portrayed as being, because it sort of begs the question of like, so what crazy shit did they do? And then you kind of have to get into this really murky Black Dog book kind of thing. But that's what we're doing. We're wading full waist deep into the swamp and just saying, okay, there's going to be a metric for corruption. There's going to be, lots of history of horrible things,
Okay.
and
The
I'm going to
producer,
encourage people to play these horrible characters.
the producer has this to ask, and I try to give her a bit of leeway because she has always been a good, she knows her deal. She knows what's going on, and she's not going to ask a stupid question. The question is, I have a question. Will this new book contain any new info on the BSP?
What will the new book contain any new info?
Yeah.
No, so the full
Yeah.
question is, will the new book contain any new info on the Black Spiral Dancer's relationships with other creatures in the world of darkness, from both an antagonist and protagonist perspective than other books have done?
Thank you.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
You
no,
stole
that's
my
what I was trying to
question.
get out, dude.
No way, you have to get out of my head because I was thinking something similar. I was about to ask something like that.
New
Well,
Wave,
yeah.
man.
I think what you're asking is like, will it talk about like how the Black Spiral Dancers deal with, I don't know, the Sidhe and the Black Paths of Balar and shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely that's something I'm interested in. It's in the outline. Like the outline's been written since January. So this has been actually, marinating for like 6 months, 7 months. So yeah, I've thought about that, and I think the other team members have. But that's definitely not a major focus. Like it'll be there. There'll be like a few pages on it for sure. But it's really going to be a werewolf supplement.
Yeah, but still, even as a werewolf supplement, you have to understand that there are, as I've been saying since day one, and I do mean day one, I have said, how do these other splats cover vampire or cover?
Yeah, see, I think maybe I'm giving the wrong impression or somehow came off wrong. It's going to be in there, period, end. The question I think is, and I think maybe I'm wrong, will like the interaction between Black Spiral Dancers and other creatures from other game lines be a major focus in the book? Maybe I guess that's not the question, and because it's not going to be. But yes, absolutely. Like I think that the Sabbat and Pentex work together very closely.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think Pentex works very closely with and basically supports on some sort of welfare kind of basis a lot of the kinfolk families. They basically employ them at the docks to stand around and be dickheads. Like they have dead end jobs and they still get paid kind of thing because they're kinfolk. They want them to breed. They
Yeah,
want
they're
them
kin.
not breed. So there's going to be a lot of that. Yeah. And so the Tremere, the Setites, the Zemise, the Ventru. I'll fight you.
Sorry.
So,
No, dude. After last show, we're going to talk about this.
Well,
Okay,
I mean,
seriously,
even
dude.
Mark Ron Hagen called it the Zemisi.
And
I
he
just
was wrong.
don't really use the E. I just call him Zemise because it comes off better. But in all fairness, like Ron Hagen calls it Zemisi. So
Do you know why I call it a shimishay? It's
Ukrainian?
a Romanian speaker. I sent him the word.
Right.
And he said, and I quote, "This is pronounced shimishay."
Well, their clan curses, no one knows how to pronounce their name, even them. So
I
it's
know,
okay.
You know what your fault was? Believing anything a Romanian would say. So, just kidding. I love you, Romanians. My aunt is Romanian. But yeah, I think it's maybe not pronounced that way, but if it is, fuck off.
Shimishay.
Right on.
That's how it's pronounced in Romanian. That word. Specifically, that word. It doesn't matter.
Anyway.
I hear you. But I think we're all like. Is there anything like you that I don't know. I've said anything objectionable? Is like you don't want to see? Is there something some door you don't want me to
No,
open? Like,
no, no, no. I'm just saying, you
Uh,
you triggered us. You now seriously, dude, you triggered me. I'm not saying
oh,
us. You triggered me. As soon as Cosmic Kriseku, a Romanian, you know, agent, I guess, or how should I put this? Somebody who lives in Romania. I showed him the word, and he said, "Oh, that's pronounced Shimishay." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's how I'm gonna pronounce it from now on."
yeah, yeah.
so New Wave has a follow-up then. Will this book also give more details on the corruption and indoctrination of other werewolf tribes? Now, you were saying you're
Absolutely.
going with the corruption scale. I'm guessing you're actually feeding that information in there, right? Of how to
Yeah.
corrupt other wares and make them
Oh
walk
yeah, among us
spiral.
black
Absolutely,
spirals.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So the black spiral, the path of the black spiral. I'm trying to flip to it right now. Is actually in the Book of Worm, or I mean, there's the W20, which of course I need to look up. But yeah, there's like a section where they talk about it, but there isn't. It's here, not the 9 circles, the first one and the second one. But there's no. It's not a mechanics. It's a narrative, and that's cool. But it
Oh.
doesn't like a lot of the storyteller system is based on narrative storytelling. Okay, hence the term. But
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of us want mechanics, and to just say, hey, you don't need the mechanic is easy enough. That's the basic bottom line of all storyteller games is your own game, you do what you want. But to just not have a mechanic for it, I think of hamstrings some of the storytellers out there that look at this material and
Yeah, it
say,
would,
what
wouldn't
do
it?
we do with this? How do I corrupt a fucking Garou? So, like, you
Uh,
remember? I don't know if you guys ever played Star Wars, where the West End games with the D6. There was a metric called dark side points, and if you started running around choking people and doing crazy shit with your lightsaber, you got dark
Yeah.
side points,
no,
and
I
that
would
shit.
be like, come here.
Well, I mean, that's why Anakin killed all the younglings, was to harvest dark side points like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and because the thing in the game was dark side points could be spent faster than what they're called force points, which you got because of force sensitivity. And so you could be really badass with your force points, but if you
Yeah,
had
see
dark
what I
side
mean?
points, you could be really badass.
This is
And that
starting to
just
sound
that's the corruption.
like Jedi.
Yeah, so I mean that's probably how I would do it. Like you would get corruption points and you can spend them, and like I don't know, I haven't figured it out yet. But there's
Hmm.
definitely going to be an actual game metric for walking the spiral. That's one, and another actual game metric for literally just enrapturing your herd, if you will, because I believe the Black Spiral Dancers, like I said, like the bottom line for them is corruption, so that like a really high level rank, rank 5 BSD would have fucking minions. Like a lot of them would be like a
Yeah,
biker,
they
like a
would.
biker. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
they
And would
would.
have like people that just jock him every fucking day. And how did you get that? Like, how did you become a cult leader within the confines of the storyteller system? You can,
Well,
of course,
no,
just
it's
say,
right up here
Mr.
with the
Storyteller,
ghouls.
how does it work? But I'd rather give them the tools so that
Hmm.
younger or less experienced or more game mechanic oriented
Well,
storytellers can
no,
just,
it'd be right up there
roll the
with
dice.
how to, a ghoul thing. Where
Ghoul
we
is a
can
great
feed
example of the
nobody can
Viniculum.
feed blood,
Yeah,
feed
or no,
blood
that's
to
not Ghoul, that's
whatever,
just Sabbat.
whom,
But
Yeah.
and
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think
Now,
Viniculum point, the Blood Bond, and the Viniculum of the Sabbat is probably the best example of like here's
oh,
the
okay.
ritual, and here's how many points you have, and here's what it's like when you have 1 point, and here's what it's like when you have 10 points, and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so
since you
here,
mentioned the oh, sorry.
you go first.
Okay, I was gonna ask, since you mentioned the being the cold leader and all that, are you going to make use of the dark litany?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's one that I will admit right now is on my Amazon list and I haven't read. But yeah, the Dark Litany
What
is
the fuck?
hey, fuck you, buddy.
We all don't have the time to
So,
read every book.
Wait,
for
hold
anyone
up.
listening,
Now, hold the fuck up. Wait a minute. You were talking some shit
So
I did not
for
read that yet.
anyone who's listening, the Dark Litany is called Walking the Black Spiral. Also called Walking the Black Spiral.
Walking the Black Spiral, yo.
Right? It's a great book. It's a prop, just like the Book of Nod, and you can just read it. Like it
The
talks.
Reese's Fragments or the
Yeah.
letters of what
I should
is
grab it.
The mage one, yeah.
No, the one about the Gaius Longinus, the letters of Gaius.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I forgot there was another one.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, definitely the Black Litany is going to be in there, and there's also going to be a sample adventure, so that people who buy the book, read the book, and get to the end and say, "You motherfucker, I still don't get it."
Yeah,
Like,
you motherfucker, I still don't get it. Oh, that's awesome.
oh, some good news.
No, I feel that way. After I read the Book of Nod, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, what?
Yeah, I remember reading that as a kid and then being like, "What?" I mean, I knew what it
Like,
meant. It wasn't
what?
like it didn't confuse me, but it didn't occur to me until I read it like multiple times that there's no game mechanics in here at all. It's nothing. You didn't miss anything. It's just a prop.
No,
It's-
you didn't miss anything.
It's not there.
No, seriously, you didn't miss anything. It's just that apocryphal. Okay, that's how this works. And then all of a sudden, then we get to the Book of Lilith. And I was even more confused. I was like,
Yeah,
what?
Those books are one of the reasons why, in my opinion, White Wolf is fucking champ of all champs. Like they release
right.
straight up like props. Like this is what your characters are trying to piece together fragment by fragment.
Yes.
That was so pimp.
Yes.
That was the whole. That is the game mechanic that you get out of it, is that you can give your characters
Like,
fragments.
What?
But it's just now that everyone's read it, it doesn't really like all the players know it.
What?
Anyway, I got a hard stop at 8:00 Pacific Standard Time. I
Yeah,
have a
we're
really
good,
busy
man.
year in my normal
All
life,
right,
so I got
so-
a really big meeting
Okay.
tomorrow.
No, we're
But,
good, man. So did
yeah,
you
this has been great.
Did you get some good info out of this?
Oh, Brett, this is great. And the best part, I'll tell you, one of the reasons why I called you is because I knew this conversation would be live and recorded, so that I can go back, as opposed to me scribbling notes through our phone call or Skype call. I can go back to this recording and get everything else out of it. So yeah, this has been really great.
But
I'm gonna do
I just want to know that we helped.
No, you did. Let me do one last thing, which I just forgot to mention, which is kind of an interesting point. There's not a lot of Black Spiral Dancer art that's been digitized and been made available for use for the Storyteller's Vault. Like there's a lot of images, like just looking at the Book of Worm, there's all these amazing images that are very clearly Black Spiral Dancers, but most of those images are actually not available through the Storyteller's Vault.
Yeah,
And you're only
copyright's a bitch.
Yeah, and no, it's actually just like they have a lot of work to do, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Sure,
But you're only allowed to use art that's either we can get for free or pay for, or that's given to us through the Storyteller's Vault art packs. And I have been begging the fucking guys to, prioritize the Book of Worm so that we can get the pictures out of it. But as it stands, there's most of the Book of Worm images are not available. So if everyone could just cross your fingers, or maybe like send a letter to Matt or something, post something on the Storyteller's Vault, tell them that you really want this book and that you think that the art from the Book of Worm needs to be available, or the book's going to suck a dick.
I'm on it, dude.
I really want that art to be made available, and I can't just photocopy it out of the book because it's copyright on.
Dude.
So, if you guys want this book, help me pressure the community to get that art made available. Because I've even said it, like, what is the guy's salary? How many hours does it take? Like, what is, what do I need to do?
Yeah,
I think
whose dick do I have to suck?
You know what I mean? I think it just comes down to what the community wants. And if enough people said, hey, we really want more Black Spiral Dancer images available for free on the Storyteller's Vault, I think we would get it. So.
Yeah, no, I'm on it, dude. No,
I really appreciate it, guys. I'm a little late. I don't have anything to do right now, but I got to read I got a speech to give tomorrow, so I got to let you guys go. Thank you so
All right,
much. This
good
is
night,
great.
dude. I'm loving it. I love having you on the show.
Oh, I
And
love you guys too, man. It's really cool because you guys are super nerds and we talk over each other and we don't fight.
Right.
It's a really good time. For anyone who's ever interested, I encourage people to come on the show. But
I also
Yeah,
did send you
no,
a
dude,
Facebook message
to
about a
be
question we
honest,
can't cover
we've
here.
had
Oh,
some
cool.
folks. No, seriously, dude, we've had some folks drop us, and
no,
I'm gonna be
it's whatever, man. You
no. Here's the
definitely say some controversial shit. Sometimes you say things you shouldn't say, but when you do, you apologize and you move on like an adult. And I think anyone who has a problem with the show should just take it up with you personally and be like, "Hey, man, this is my
that's
problem." And I
all
think
I've ever asked.
you'll find that you're a very nice guy, and that we all make mistakes, and you just need to
Oops.
talk to you. So I think you're great. I think the show's great. I think you just need to have me on more. So fuck off.
Yeah. So fuck off, dude.
All right.
We're done with that too.
Fuck off, my
Love
friends.
you to death, dude.
All right.
Love
Love you
you.
guys. Peace.
Peace. All right, so we're done for the night. This is an off show for us, and I appreciate that. Thomas would be willing to come in on, at the last minute for this, because
Right.
it would have been okay for just three of us, but I like having our guys, our folks.
And I'm always glad to come and represent the wonderful company that is Pentex. Do try our new Megadon Pharmaceutical energy drinks coming out this summer.
That's what he said. So, love y'all to death. Everybody say good night.
Good night.
Good night, peasants.
Yeah, no, that's what I was looking for.
Non-corrupted prison.